In this video, we're going to talk about finding and describing probability. The probability of something is the number of favorable outcomes divided by the number of total outcomes possible. Here we have a spinner. You will notice that there are 8 outcomes, and 4 are green and 2 are pink. So if we're looking for the probability of green or pink, that means there are 6 favorable outcomes divided by 8 total outcomes. So the probability of getting green or pink is 6 out of 8, or simplified, 3/4. Let's look at the probability of flipping 2 coins and getting at least 1 heads on the 2 coins. Well, there are 4 possibilities. I could either get heads on both of them, or tails on both of them, or heads on the first and tails on the second, or tails on the first and heads on the second. Well, the first one has at least 1 heads, the second one doesn't, but the third does, and so does the fourth have at least 1 head. So 3 out of the 4 possible outcomes are favorable outcomes, giving us a probability of 3/4. Let's look at rolling a die. So here I have a die, and I want to know what's the probability that I get a number less than 3. Well, 1 is a number less than 3, 2 is a number less than 3, and those are the only ones that are less than 3. And so we have probability of 2 out of 6, which simplifies to 1/3. Let's talk about describing probability. Well, we know probability can start at 0% and go all the way up to 100%. We would call the 100% possibility certain, and a 0% possibility would be impossible. So those are words we use when we mean the absolute 100% or 0%. What about if it's right in the middle at 50%? We say that that's equally likely. And at 25%, we say it's unlikely. And at 75%, we say it's likely. Then the only other possibilities are nearly impossible when it's almost 0, or nearly certain when it's almost 100%. Remember, for it to be impossible, it has to be exactly 0%, and for it to be certain, it has to be exactly 100%. We're going to talk about how to use a probability to find a missing value. For example, I have a 30% chance of getting blue when I spin a spinner. How many times can I expect to get blue if I spin the spinner 25 times? To do this, I set up a proportion and I have 30 over 100 equals B over 25. I know the 25 goes in the denominator because that's the total number of times that I spin. I then cross multiply and I get 30 times 25 equals 100 times B. I then solve that equation and I get B is equal to 7.5, which means I can expect 7 to 8 blues. Let's use probability to find the number of times I need to spin a spinner to get an expected value. So in this example, if there's a 17% probability of getting yellow, how many times do I need to spin to get 20 blues? Well, once again, I set up a proportion, and this time I have 17%, and the variable goes in the denominator because our variable this time represents the total number of spins that I need. I cross multiply, and I get 17 times y equals 100 times 20. And then I solve that equation, and I get 17y equals 2,000, so y is equal to 117.65. That means I need to spin about 118 times to get the 20 blues.